You put out the feeder this morning, same as every morning. Same spot, same seed, same routine. But before you turned back toward the house, something happened that you didn't notice. And it changed everything that came after.
That feeder isn't just a feeder. It's a living intelligence system. And right now, your birds are running it without you.
There's a species out there that remembers the exact location of tens of thousands of individual seeds it buried in your yard. There's a behavior so precise, it has rewritten an entire bird population's migration route, encoded it into their DNA, passed it to their children. And there's something happening at your feeder right now, this morning, that no one ever told you to look for. Because most people never do.
Every week, we go deeper into the world that's already living just outside your window. If that's your kind of thing, subscribe, because the next video goes somewhere most people don't expect.
Stay with this one to the end. The last thing we're going to tell you isn't about what the birds are doing to your seed. It's about what your seed has been doing to the birds. And once you know it, you'll never look at that feeder the same way again.
1. The pecking order you never noticed. You've probably noticed that your birds don't all eat at the same time. The chickadees come first, then the nuthatches, then maybe the juncos later in the afternoon. You might have assumed it was random, that they simply showed up when they were hungry. They didn't. Researchers at the University of Exeter found that wild birds feeding at garden stations maintain strict, self-organized dominance hierarchies. Every individual knows exactly where it stands. The chickadee darts in because it knows it can. The mourning dove waits because it knows it has to. Casual, scattered. That's what it looks like. What it is a negotiated social order, running every hour your feeder is out. 2. The calendar you're rewriting. There's something most people do without thinking about it. They put out the same seed, in the same place, at the same time, every morning. Feels like a kindness, and it is. But garden feeding has been shown to alter bird behavior at a scale most people would never expect. The clearest example is the Eurasian blackcap, a small warbler that, over the past 60 years, has progressively abandoned its traditional migration route south toward the Mediterranean and begun overwintering in Britain instead. Researchers at the British Trust for Ornithology found that this shift tracks directly with the rise of garden feeding across the UK. The behavior is now genetically encoded. The body follows the habit. It is being passed down. What started as a cup of seed on a windowsill became, across generations, a rewritten compass. The blackcap is the example we can measure. Every morning you fill that feeder, you are part of a force that accumulates across lifetimes. 3. The brain that grows for your yard. Black-capped chickadees are storing food right now, not stashing it casually, storing it with spatial precision across hundreds of individual locations scattered across a territory of up to 12 acres. Research going back decades has confirmed that the chickadee hippocampus, the brain region responsible for spatial memory, expands by roughly 30% each autumn to handle this task. New neurons grow. Every autumn, without fail, the brain physically gets larger. Then, come spring, when the caches are gone and the memory load drops, it contracts again. Your feeder is one node in a memory architecture so complex it required a seasonal organ to manage it. And the bird that just flew off your platform, the one that looked like it was leaving, it'll be back. It knows exactly where it went. And it's not the only thing about that bird that your feeder has been quietly changing. 4. They know who you are. There is a threshold, a distance, beyond which a bird will flush. It's called the flight initiation distance. And for the birds at your feeder, that threshold is different for you than it is for anyone else. Research by Professor John Marsliff at the University of Washington showed that American crows recognize individual human faces and hold that recognition for years after a single encounter. Crows are the best documented case, but the cognitive infrastructure for recognizing individuals exists across far more species than most people know. Studies on barn swallows have shown that nesting birds identify the specific householder where their nest is located, displaying measurably lower flight initiation distance toward a familiar person than toward a stranger. Your birds aren't simply tolerating you. They've adjusted everything about how they move around you. They know your pace, your schedule, your level of threat. They've been building that picture for longer than you have. 5. The morning broadcast. Here's something that happens every morning at your feeder, and almost nobody knows to look for it. When a chickadee or a nuthatch finds food, it doesn't stay quiet. It calls. And those calls are not random contact notes. They are recruitment signals, structured to attract other birds of different species. Research into mixed species foraging flocks has shown that these loose, shifting coalitions form around a single, reliable food source and move through a territory together, with chickadees typically acting as the anchor species. Your feeder is the fixed point. The chickadee that arrived first isn't just eating, it's broadcasting. It's telling every bird within earshot that this location is safe, productive, and worth visiting. The hierarchy from one? It reassembles every single morning because one bird decided to speak. And the reason it speaks, the reason it shares rather than eating in silence, is that more eyes watching means fewer hawks landing. It was never just a feeder. It was always a system, and you were never running it. 6. What your seed has been doing to them. Here is the thing no one talks about. The seed in your feeder, sunflower seeds, millet, safflower, almost none of it is native to the ecosystems your birds evolved in. And yet, they eat it, eagerly, in quantities that, in some regions, now account for a measurable share of individual birds' daily caloric intake. A study published in Science, comparing more than 3,000 great tits across the United Kingdom and the Netherlands, found that British birds have developed measurably longer bills than their continental counterparts. The change is genetic, it is heritable, and it tracks almost precisely with the rise of garden bird feeding in Britain, where more than half of all households maintain a feeder, and people spend roughly twice as much on birdseed as the rest of mainland Europe combined. Birds with longer bills visit feeders more, they eat more, they survive better, they pass the longer bill on. The museum records confirming this change span roughly 3 decades. 3 decades. That is not geological time. That is not the slow grind of deep evolution. That is one human lifetime. You didn't just feed the birds. Every morning without knowing it. Every cup of seed, every refill, every feeder you moved a few feet to the left so you could see it better from the kitchen window. You were part of an ongoing, uncontrolled experiment in real-time evolution. And it's still running.